Mesharala, as we continue on with part 2 to this lesson, which is the first and second Maccabees, is canonical to the scriptures, canonical to the Bible, right? As mentioned, right in front here, we could go on with the continuation, which we was reading at. But let's get the precept in second Maccabees, right, where we could gather the evidence shown as well as the history going into how by a guy named Jason got a license to do after the ways, and actually took on the youths, and to in other words, to teach them the fashions and the ways of the Greeks. Let's go into verses 4, and I believe we can start at verses 4. Oh, my goodness, Salakia. So, let's get the account with the history here. Keep it next to each other. Alright? So, let's read as we continue, where it says, the Greeks found many willing collaborators among the Jews in their attempt to eradicate the Israelites, or the ways of Israel, which is Judaism, which that's what they call Judaism, but it's most the ways of the Israelites, and install the more enlightened pagan culture of theirs in Israel. Now you understand this right here. No, we weren't trying to get off topic, but this right here, it's full evidential fact as to why I said from before to the same guy Luke that the two words, one being Gentile, the words being Gentile goes back, there's two definitions for it in the scriptures. One is ethnos, which means pagan, and the other means Hellen, which goes back to Grecian, which means Greek-speaking Jew. Once we get that point across, the rest of it would be direct. Because it's telling you right here as we read that they install a more enlightened pagan culture, showing how Israelites became ethnos, pagan. And it's not referring to other nations, because yet again, Psalms 147, 19 and 20, he showed his words unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. He had not dealt so with any nation, and for his judgments they have not known them. Praise Yahweh. Hence why the so-called pagans, the Israelites that took up the Greek-ish customs, were the pagans, because they are going after strange laws and abominable customs which were mentioned in the book of Maccabees 1. So let's not stray, going back into our history to show you how the history matches up with the storyline in Maccabees, which makes, as going back into the front of the title of the page, makes first and second Maccabees canonical. Salak. I keep saying canonical. Why do I keep saying canonical? Canonical to the scriptures. Let's continue. These Hellenist Jews hated their brethren and openly sided with their enemies of Israel, who attempted to destroy the Jewish nations and faith. Now we have an account when they go into the precept. Before we continue, let's go into that precept in Psalms 83, because at the end of the day, this was their agenda. It says, for lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up their head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. Now here is the point. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. Hence why they were trying their very best to push the children of Israel out of the ways of Yahweh Hashem Yoshai, that they may forget all the laws and all the ordinances which were mentioned in First Maccabees, which is shown that the penalty of the decree for those who fail to listen shall be put to death. That's the penalty. So let's now continue. Let's go to the tabernacle of Edom and the Ishmaelites and the Moabites and the Hagarenes. Now we know the main recipient for this one, our enemy, is the Edomites. But let's continue aside from the other nations, because they also are. But the main one are the Edomites. Let's continue. So now let's address this first point in 2 Maccabees chapter 4 and verses 4. Let's coming down. Oniah seeing the danger of this contention, and Apollonius as being the governor of Seleucia, and Phinis, I don't know how to pronounce. It says, did rage and increase Simon's malice. It says, he went to the king not to be an accuser of his countrymen, but seeking the good of all, and public and private, both public and private. For he saw that it was impossible that the state should continue quiet, and Simon leave his folly, unless the king did look thereunto. But after the death of Seleucus, when Antiochus called Epiphanes took the kingdom, Jason, the brother of Onias, labored underhand to the high priest. See what he did? Let's read. Promising unto the king by intercession 300 and 80 talents of silver, and of another revenue 80 talents. Beside this, he promised to assign 150 more, if he might have license to set up a place for exercise. It says for the training up of the youth in the fashions of the heathen. In the what? Fashions of the heathen, which goes back into what? The Greeks found willing collaborators among the Israelites, among the Jews, in their attempt to eradicate Judaism and install a more enlightened pagan culture of theirs in Israel. Direct. You cannot change this point at this point. You cannot say that the second Maccabees is not canon. Even though you read that it is, we are proving also that it is. Because when you go even down to the account, many of these places which were built for exercise, it was a naked, they were going to these places naked as they're born. It's part of the pagan culture of the Greeks, which the Israelites adopted when they joined themselves to these heathens. Let's continue. Going back into Maccabees. Let me see. All right, verse. Right, let's read back. It says, if he might have license to set up a place of exercise and for the training up of youths in the fashions of the heathen, and to write them of Jerusalem by the name of Antiochus. So what did he do? To write them of Jerusalem by the name of Antiochians. So they will now be considered or called what? Antiochians. Or how I want to put Antiochians, I guess. Which when the king had granted, and he had gotten into his hand the rule, he forthwith brought his own nation to Greekish fashion. What did he do? Brought his own nation to Greekish fashion. Going back into the story, into the history, in the JewishHistory.org, you can also get this account with more vivid explanations in Jewish Encyclopedia, the hell of the Hellenist, or the Hellenist to be exact, same thing, same title, and you would see more vivid explanations, proving more and more the book of Maccabees. Come on, it gives you a very history, which is why Daniel prophesied from his dreams of these nations coming to fruitions and then coming to naught. You cannot sit here and reject the Maccabees, when the first and second Maccabees to be exact, because there are more books which is not canon, which holds the history of the Greek Empire as to where Israel would had to be and go through. The reason for Daniel having these dreams about these nations is because the Israelites would be partakers of passing through it even unto the last one, iron and clay, which all is going to be broken by Yahuwah Shem Yoshai when his son come on the scene. This is prophecy. So to reject prophecy and say this isn't canon, then you don't understand scriptures. You err not knowing the scriptures. For you to claim to be a believer, claiming to debunk Hebrew Israelites, and then miss the mark by a mile, you don't understand prophecy. And to be exact, let me get a precept. I believe it's Revelation chapter 19 itself, and verses 10. Yep. It says, and I fell at his feet to worship him, and he said unto me, see thou do it not. I am a fellow servant, which is the Alham, and of thy brethren. It says, that have the testimony of Yahushai. Worship power, for the testimony of Yahushai is the spirit of prophecy. And if you cannot see and have the spirit of prophecy, it means you don't worship or you don't believe in the testimony of Yahushai HaMashiach, because you missed the mark by a mile. And if you are claiming to be a Christian and you don't understand the prophecies, then your religion is flawed. Get to the terms. You are going after idols of wood and stone, as mentioned in prophecy, for your disobedience. But let's go back to topic. Let's not stray. Go back into Maccabees chapter 4. I think we reached was verses 10, I believe. Yep, Greekish fashions. Then we stop at verses. We can stop at verses. We already proved a point in it. We could keep going, honestly speaking. But I'll leave some for when they decide to, when anybody decides to want to respond. I'll leave the rest to read it down for you to see something different. That is all. I can stop at verse 16. Yeah. No, verse 17. So 17. I will stop at verse 17. Right. So let's continue with this. Let's see. Right. So, which part did I reach? I want to mix it up. Right, pagan, right. It says, these Hellenist Jews hated their brethren and openly sided with their enemies, like I bring that out before. it says, who attempted to destroy the Jewish nation and faith. They hated themselves for being Jewish and resorted to things like painful cosmetic surgeries, not only to blend in better with the Greeks, but as a sign of defiance in their attempt to remove any trace of being Jewish or Jew or Israelites from their bodies. It says what? Naturally, here it says, naturally, the victory of the Maccabees over the Greek, which we will discuss next, was a great disappointment to them. Now watch this. I just want to go. Yeah, I mean shit. Right. It says Jews true to Judaism were an increasingly shrinking island, awash in a sea of Greek culture. So it says they were victim of a cultural revolution that in a short time would have completely swamped them. Now watch this. Let's go back, because we want to get that point which we read just now. As it's going to say, verses 11, I believe. Yeah. The royal privileges granted of special favors to the Jews by the means of John, the father of Eupolemus, who went ambassador to Rome for amity and aid. He took away and putting down the governments which were according to the law. He brought up new customs against the law, for he built gladly a place of exercise under the tower itself, and brought the chief young men under his subjection, and made them wear a hat. Now, such was the height of Greek fashions, and in an increase of heathenish manners through the exceeding profaneness of Jason. So he helped expedite the process of Israelites becoming Gentiles or Greeks. That ungodly wretch, here his name is, he was referred to as that ungodly wretch, and no high priest. Verse 14, that the priests had no courage to serve anymore at the altar, but despising the temple and neglecting the sacrifices, hastened to be partakers of the unlawful allowance in the place of exercise. So even they gave in. After the game of discourse called them forth, not setting to be honors of their fathers, but liking the glory of the Grecians best of all. Let's finish the last part where it says, verse 16, by reason whereof sore calamities came upon them, for they had them to be their enemies and avengers, whose customs they followed so earnestly, and unto whom they despised to be like in all things. So, in the end, guess what? They receive the flicking punishment regardless. The enemies don't like them. Your enemies is your enemies at the end of the day. And you make two enemies. You have an enemy which is who you're dwelling with, and then you make Yahuwah Shimei Shai your enemy now. Because he see you as a damn heathen, and he going to wipe you off the flicking map. As part of the what? The curses in Deuteronomy. You can't get around that. And look at how it ties in with the historical points that was given in the history of the Hellenists. You cannot make this up. You cannot make this up. Time and time again. We have been proving ourselves. Now look at Luke. I wonder how Luke has felt. I know how he felt. Because he didn't want to say or answer any more questions. I know how he felt. Especially when I asked him about Matthew chapter 25 and verse 33 and 34. There was no speech in him. He couldn't answer the question. And I say it's a simple answer. Who are the sheep? He refused to answer because he know it is going to the children of Israel. Being disingenuous, especially according to the scriptures, will get you nowhere because it only make you look like a fool. Which is why I'm able to do a video like this today. To edify the sheep as well as to pull down many shipping and strongholds that people would claim that, because he claimed with his own thoughts that, the Maccabees is not canon. And then when he got cut or corrected, he couldn't say anything again. His point was to withdraw, which means what? And again, remember, he was prideful. We showed you the video in the first part. The man was prideful. He was real prideful, laughing and thinking and thinking. And when I brought it into him, boom, game over. All talk done. Where is your debunking page? I'm waiting. I ain't see it since. And I'm not even joking. I haven't seen the online Hebrew Israelites debunked next page. And that these were that debunking live since. It's like he's off the map all of a sudden. If you think I'm joking, check. He's not on that page at all. It is where it is. So this is not me trying to boast, but the way the scripture tells you can't do nothing against, but for the truth. You cannot do anything against, but for the truth. Scripture say what? Let me get a precept. 2 Timothy chapter 3 and verses 4. It says what? All scriptures, not some, not 66 books, all the books, all the accounts, all the testimonies, all the scriptures is given by the inspiration of power and is profitable for doctrines, for reproof, for correction, for instructions in righteousness, that a man may be perfect and truly furnished unto all good works, which is why we constantly in a state of studying. Study to show yourself approved. A workman need not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. Because if you was studied, Luke, you would not make that false statement. But you are following after your pastors in Christianity and expect to debunk Israelites that bringing forth the truth on a daily basis, that living of this truth. Really? Time to go back and learn the milk because you choke on it. I can guarantee you that. Time to go back and learn the milk, and we'll close with this precept. I want to add one more precept after that. It says, For when the time ye ought to be teachers, ye have need that one may teach you again, which be the first principle of the oracles of power, and are become such as need of milk and not of strong meats. And the fact that you have choked on the milk, it would mean that the formula that we are bringing out is not agreeing with you. That's sound doctrine, which means you would have to be rebirthed in the kingdom to receive. If you are a Jake, because you look to be a Jake, but we had to make sure your seed line goes back to what? To Edom. To Edom. Does not go back to Edom or the other heathen nations. Only then we could assure that. So, hey, go back and learn. Or I guess you can't go back and learn because you're choking on the milk. So guess what? Keep doing what you're doing. Your works will be rewarded, whether it be good or whether it be evil at the end of the day. Alright? Don't worry yourself. I have one more precept. I think is gain C. Y'all know what I gain at. Right, this is it here. It says, For I will give you a mouth and wisdom which all your adversaries shall not be able to gainsay nor resist. Let me get a precept in the NLT or another translation, because we need to get our point across immediately for you all to understand. Luke chapter 21 and verses 15 or 17. Make sure it's 15. All right. NLT, it says, I will give you the right words and such wisdom that none of your opponents will be able to reply or refute. Which, frankly, I'm still waiting for that rebuttal, like you were saying. I'm still waiting for you to refute or to reply exactly like you were saying. I'm still waiting for an answer to Matthew 25 and verse 33 and 34. I'm still waiting for an answer to Daniel chapter 2 and verse 45 and 44 and 45. I'm still waiting for an answer for Acts chapter 13 and verse 22 to 26. Or Acts chapter 5 and verse 30 to 31. I'm still waiting for one more answer, like I brought out, and you butcher yourself in this one. That was harsh. In Romans chapter 9 and verse 3 and 4. Still waiting. Still waiting. Revelation 21. Still waiting. Revelation 7 and 9. When I corrected you. You laughed when I corrected you, and I brought the precept out even in second Ezra chapter 3 and verse 16. For those who are talking about great multitude, look into second Ezra chapter 3 and verse 16. When I brought that out, he get quiet. You know what his next argument was? That the Ezra's series isn't canon. And I proved that to him and all. I'm still waiting. So, hey, we closed off here. Lesson, the point of it is lesson to be edifying. I'm still waiting for an answer, but I know I'm not going to get one because it has been days. It has been days. So, hey, alright. Shalom. Yabashim Kal Halaliam Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai Bahashim Kakwadash. We give honor to the apostles and prophets and elders of James Camp, but to great minister for the bring forward the 100% truth that have been correctly edified under. Shalom to the elect, the tabernacle of David. I am a brother Darius saying to you, Shalom.